On the news, the Defense Headquarters debunks alleged surrender of terrorist kingpin Bello Turji. Chief of Defense Staff General Christopher Musa says ranching will address farmer-elder clashes. And Federal Executive Council imposes 7-year ban on establishment of new federal tertiary institutions. It's a pleasure to have you join News Now on TV360 Nigeria. I'm Okpayemi Owosheni. We kick off with security as the Defense Headquarters has denied recent report suggesting that notorious terrorist kingpin Bello Turji, operating in the northwest region of the country, has surrendered. The DHQ emphasized that Turji remains a wanted criminal and has not laid down his arms as speculated. Speaking in Abuja on Thursday, the Director of Defense Media Operations, Major General Marcus Kange, provided a clarification while briefing defense correspondent on the ongoing effort of the Armed Forces of Nigeria in various theaters of operation across the country. Major General Kange noted that while Turji remains at large, troops have intensified operations to apprehend him. He added that security forces have made significant progress, successfully neutralizing several of Turji's top commanders and fighters in recent engagements. The DHQ statement comes amid conflicting media reports claiming that Turji had surrendered and released 32 kidnapped victims as part of a peace initiative allegedly facilitated by Islamic clerics in Zamfara State.
If it is true that bandit leader Bello Turji has surrendered and that an Islamic cleric took ownership of the negotiation that led to his surrender. If I get you right. Simple answer, Bello Turji has not surrendered. We are still on the trail for him. The armed forces cannot deploy troops to protect citizens. And you're not saying, what do you mean by extrajudicial killing? Is it that the soldiers carried their weapon, went to the street and started shooting people? You that even ask the question, you know what Amnesty International are doing. You know what they used to publish. Like I always tell you, everybody with phone in his hand, mobile phone, Android phone, is a potential source of information to the whole world, not even to us here. As you are sitting down now, you can say information to any part of the world that you want, and you say what you want. Nobody will tell you for that. You have, because there is freedom of whatever you want to do. But we can tell you that the military is not engaged in any extrajudicial killing in the southeast.
Still on security, the Chief of Defense Staff, General Christopher Musa, has emphasized the need to adopt cattle ranching as a long-term solution to the recurring conflict between herders and farmers in the country. General Musa made the call while addressing a press conference in Abuja ahead of the meeting African Chief of Defense Staff Summit aimed at fostering connectivity with continental security cooperation to tackle emerging threats. He urged stakeholders to explore peaceful and structured approaches to resolving the dispute, noting that the destruction of animals involved in such conflict should be discouraged. Instead, he suggested that the animals be arrested to allow for proper compensation for damages caused to farmlands.
And I think some people felt that we're encouraging government to buy farm, and I said, no, ranching is business. Anybody that is interested in ranching should buy land, should also do that. Again, governments that are interested in their own regions, they can also show model ranch farms for people to do. But like what we're saying is, for us to address our security situation, we must stop animals going into farms. We must stop killing animals. Traditionally, what is done before, if an animal strays into a farm, we arrest it, the owner comes and pays his dues and he takes it back. If we do that, we will have peace. But it's important that we're able to get areas where we can keep these animals. They are better off when they are catered in a ranch. If you don't want to call it ranch, call it whatever it is, but provide an area where they don't need to move around. Because once they move around, they spend energy, they are smaller, they don't produce so much milk for you to do. But when you ranch them, you get the best out of it. So it's a win-win thing for all of us. And I want us as Nigerians to look at this so that we can deal with this issue, because one of the basic security challenges we're having is this issue of farmer headers issue. We must be able to address it as Nigerians. And loving one another, loving our nation will make it better and easier for us to work as a country.
Away from security matters now, the Federal Executive Council has taken bold steps to consolidate Nigeria's education sector while approving multi-billion naira infrastructure projects across transportation, power and works under the Renewed Hope agenda. Speaking to reporters at the State House in Abuja after Wednesday's FEC meeting chaired by President Bola Tinubu, key ministers outlined new policies and funding approvals aimed at boosting efficiency and national development. TV360's correspondent Simisola Adegun completes this report.
This week's council meeting focuses on streamlining government investments, strengthening existing infrastructure, and enforcing fiscal discipline in project execution. One of the major policy decisions is a 7-year moratorium on the establishment of new federal tertiary institutions nationwide. Minister of State for Education Tunji Alausa says the measure applies to universities, polytechnics and colleges of education and is aimed at addressing the duplication of institutions.
We're witnessing significant deterioration of infrastructures, both physical and manpower at these federal tertiary institutions. So, and if we do not act decisively, we'll have significant reduction in the quality of graduates coming out of these institutions, which will impact a global rating and the respect that the international community has for the graduates.
FEC also approved 493 billion naira for the upgrading of the 152-kilometer Kano-Katsina Road and the construction of a new Carter Bridge in Lagos State. Minister of Works David Umahi explains that significant cost revisions were made to reflect prevailing economic realities.
Construction of new Carter and Tom Mainland bridges in Lagos State. I drew the attention of FEC to the fact that we've been intervening some new construction, some emergencies in a number of bridges nationwide, like Jemeta Bridge in Adamawa, already completed. Murtala Mohammed Bridge in Kogi State is ongoing. We have Jeba Bridge in Niger State. We have Gashua Bridge in Yobe. We have Eko Kata Marine Bridge and Independence Bridge.
In the power sector, 13 billion naira has been approved as right-of-way compensation for the Lagos-Ogun transmission project as part of efforts to boost electricity supply and grid reliability.
And this project, when completed, will not only improve capacity and credibility of power supply along the industrial axis of Lagos-Ogun, it will also be a good news for industrial development and ensure that industries around that axis enjoy uninterrupted supply.
In the transportation sector, 142 billion naira has been approved for the construction of modern bus terminals across Nigeria's 6 geopolitical zones.
The idea of these terminals was chosen based on choice of their economic viability. It has come to the notice of the ministry that in spite of the significance of road transportation in Nigeria, there are no bus terminals to address the interests of millions of Nigerian commuters. As a result, we have a lot of crime, road traffic accident, proliferation of arms and ammunition on our highways.
According to the ministers, the decisions reflect the Tinubu administration's emphasis on consolidating existing infrastructure, enhancing efficiency in public spending, and driving economic development across all regions. Simisola Adegun, TV360 News.
And in other stories, the airline operators of Nigeria has announced removal of the lifetime ban imposed on Comfort Emerson and Ibom Air passenger earlier penalized for unruly conduct. According to a statement issued on Thursday by the spokesperson Obiora Okonkwo, the decision came after an appeal from the Minister of Aviation and Aerospace Development, Festus Keyamo. Okonkwo explained that the operators agreed to lift the sanction after weighing all relevant factors such as Emerson's expression of remorse, the withdrawal of the complaint, the dismissal of charges, and a release from custody. Okonkwo praised the Nigerian government for introducing a retreat to retrain aviation security staff and airline crew on managing disruptive passengers, while calling on aviation agencies to enhance public awareness about the risk and legal repercussions of unruly behavior, as provided in Section 85 of the Civil Aviation Act of 2022 and Part 17 of the Nigerian Civil Aviation Regulations of 2023. Meanwhile, following the infamous incident involving a female passenger, Comfort Emerson, and an Ibom aircraft in Lagos, the National Human Rights Commission, NHRC, has described the act captured in the viral video as a severe breach of dignity, privacy, and human rights. At a press conference in Abuja, the NHRC Executive Secretary, Tony Ojukwu, while questioning the use of disproportionate force, public stripping, and the circulation of compromising footage, called for a comprehensive legal overhaul of Nigeria's airline operations with a particular focus on strengthening protections for passengers' rights.
The National Human Rights Commission demands a swift and decisive response from all relevant agencies to address these human rights violations arising from these incidents in line with Nigeria's human rights obligation to prevent reoccurrence. In addition, the National Human Rights Commission is calling on the aviation authorities and Ministry of Aviation to immediately review and revise all protocols for managing unruly passengers to ensure full compliance with human rights standards, including the right to life and safety of self or other passengers or crew members, their dignity, fair hearing, freedom of movement, and freedom from torture, inhuman and degrading treatment, and all the other rights. The aviation authorities should further mandate a comprehensive human rights and de-escalation training for all airline and airport staff and enforce strict sanctions against any airline or security agency found to have violated human rights in this instance or in the course of their duties. Furthermore, in line with Section 5 LMO and O of the NHRC Act, we have taken unprecedented steps today to issue an advisory to all authorities and persons exercising powers over the aviation industry on the right to dignity and protection against torture, inhuman and degrading treatment in aviation operations in Nigeria. This advisory has become necessary to protect passengers, airline staff, and the general public from human rights violations in operations of the industry.
Nigeria and the Republic of the Philippines have pledged to deepen cooperation in labor migration and to step up the fight against human trafficking in a move both governments say will create safer and more dignified work opportunities for their citizens abroad. Speaking at a high-level meeting in Abuja, Nigeria's Minister of Foreign Affairs, Yusuf Tuga, and the Philippine Secretary of Migrant Workers, Anslio Kakdak, agreed to strengthen bilateral labor agreement, improve migrant worker protection systems, and share strategies to combat trafficking. Anslio Kakdak described Nigeria to be a country that Filipinos have found a safe haven, saying more would be done to strengthen the diplomatic relations between the two countries for their mutual benefits.
The relationship between Nigeria and the Philippines is one that goes a very long way back, back to our independence. We have maintained missions in each other's countries for a long while. We have a joint commission, and we've shared a lot. A lot of people in this room from my generation went to school at a time when we had a lot of Filipino teachers. So we were taught, many of us were taught particularly STEM subjects by Filipinos. And It's something that when you are taught by an individual from a different country, that person is imparting not just the knowledge of the subject, but also the culture, the tradition, so you feel at home with people from that country.
In our area in particular, in labor, in a better understanding of our mutual interests and the way in which we could both learn from each other, again, in terms of finding better ways and areas of cooperation to the advantage of both of our economies. For sure that back home in the Philippines, we have a migration management system that has managed to document millions of Filipino workers overseas. And we also have a system, as I mentioned, that ably fights human trafficking. We have a fairly good standing, a rating in the latest U.S. State Department Trafficking in Persons report.
We'll go on a short break here, but still to come on news now. Spain suffers third wildfire death and Greece beats black flames. Details of the story after this break. Welcome back. Now let's take you through a recap of our top stories. The Defense Headquarters has denied recent reports suggesting that notorious terrorist kingpin Bello Turji, operating in the northwest region of the country, has surrendered. The DHQ emphasized that Turji remains a wanted criminal and has not laid down his arms as speculated. We also informed you that the Chief of Defense Staff, General Christopher Musa, has called for the adoption of cattle ranching as a sustainable solution to the recurring conflicts between herders and farmers across the country. Now, in case you missed any of our news bulletin or for more updates, you can catch us on IMEX World TV and AVO TV or log on to our website on www.tv360nigeria.com. You can also follow us on our social media platforms on X, Instagram and YouTube at TV360 Nigeria, or download our mobile app on Google Play Store, Huawei App Gallery and Apple Store. On Facebook, we are TV360 Online.
In the last 3 years, we have built a multi-purpose center, which is the envy of all in our constituency. And I can tell you that the people who are living there are already enjoying it.
Guy, do you think what this man just said is true? See, I seriously doubt. I'm sure it's one of those their silly lies.
And wait, do you know there's a way to find out if these things he's saying is true or not? This is the Construct app. It gives people like us a sure way to track implementation of constituency projects. It gives valid and verified information on location of projects, amounts allocated, amount funded, the level of job done, and even the profiles of concerned legislators. You and I can post directly on this app.
Are you serious?
This is the GoTo app if you want to know how our Commonwealth is being expanded by the government.
Wow. Let's even see if what this man said is true. Show me.
The Construct app is developed by Other Paper Nigeria with support from USAID and is available on both Google Play Store and Apple Store.
And it's true.
Of course, I told you.
Well, it's now time for business news, and Joy Uchejim is on standby. What's the latest, Joy?
Thank you, Akwayemi, and welcome to business news. Now, President Bola Tinubu has directed the Ministry of Finance to review all deductions and revenue retention practices by key revenue-generating agencies. The directive is set to be part of efforts to free up funds for investments and accelerate economic growth. Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, Wale Edun, announced the decision on Wednesday while briefing journalists after the Federal Executive Council FEC meeting presided over by Tinubu in Abuja. Edun said the review will cover the Federal Inland Revenue Service, Nigeria Customs Service, Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission, Nigerian Maritime Administration and Safety Agency, and the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited.
He has charged us to focus on spending efficiency and directed the economic management team, which I have the honor and privilege to lead, to look into the issue of review of the deductions from the Federation account, costs of collection by FIRS, Customs, NUPRC, NIMASA, and others, to look at the appropriateness and the possible savings in those key areas, amongst others. And likewise, NNPC has charges of 30% management fee and 30% management of the Frontier Exploration Fund, and we are charged with ensuring that in order to optimize every naira available for investment, we look at these particular charges and come up with our perspective that will focus on essentially reviewing those deductions and revenue retention practices and come up with actionable recommendations for optimizing in this particular area, making savings, reducing these deductions, and having more available for investment.
And still on business, the Director General of the World Trade Organization, Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, has called on the federal government to put social safety nets in place for poor Nigerians who are feeling the pains of President Bola Tinubu's economic reforms. Okonjo-Iweala disclosed this on Thursday after a meeting with the president at the Aso Villa in Abuja. Though she commended the president for the economic reforms, including petrol subsidy removal and the unification of the foreign exchange windows, the former Nigerian finance minister said the government must put social safety nets in place for poor Nigerians to cope with the economic hardship occasioned by the government's reforms.
So we think that the president and his team, and we just exchanged with him, have worked hard to stabilize the economy, and you cannot really improve an economy unless it's stable. So he has to be given the credit for the stability of the economy. So the reforms have been in the right direction. What is needed next is growth. We now need to grow the economy, and we need to put in social safety nets so that people who are feeling the pinch of the reforms can also have some support to be able to weather the hardship. So that's the next step. How do we build social safety net to help Nigerians cushion the hardship they're feeling? And then how do we grow the economy so we can create more jobs and put more money in people's pockets? These are issues that we discussed with Mr. President.
We'll now go on a short break and return with updates from the stock markets. Welcome back. It was a red day on the local bourse this Thursday, August 14th, with the markets taking a 0.34% dip. Market cap slid to 91.9 trillion naira, reflecting the bearish sentiment. Now, a total of 127 equities were traded on the NGX today, but the mood was largely negative. Only 22 stocks gained, while 52 ended in the red. Wema Bank took the hardest hit, shedding 10% to close at 20 naira 70 kobo per share, followed closely by C&I Leasing. Now, by the end of the session, over 2.5 billion shares exchanged hands across 43,505 deals worth more than 22.2 billion naira. A busy day, but clearly weighed down by the losses. Now over to global markets, the story wasn't much different. On Wall Street, the major indexes slipped after U.S. producer price data came in hotter than expected, cooling hopes for interest rate cuts this year. Meanwhile, the UK's FTSE 100 managed to buck the trend with a bullish close at 0.13%. Now in Forex, the Naira traded at 1,555 Naira to the US dollar, 2,115 Naira to the pound, and 1,800 Naira to the euro, still under pressure across the boards. And that's a wrap on the market, stock and Forex. Okwayemi is back to you for the rest of the news.
Thank you, Joy. And moving on to the foreign scene, Spain has mourned its third wildfire death this week, while Greece began beating back a blaze, threatening its third largest city, Paris, as a relenting heatwave stalked tinderbox conditions across southern Europe. The extreme summer heat, which scientists say is being lengthened and intensified by human-driven climate change, has fueled blazes and strained firefighters across the region, including in Portugal and the Balkans. According to Spanish authorities, one person battling flames in the northwestern Castile and Leon region has died, bringing the death toll to 3 after earlier fatalities were reported there and near Madrid this week. And at least 40 people have died from cholera in Sudan's Darfur region, in what the medical charity Doctors Without Borders has described as the country's worst outbreak in years. The outbreak, which began in July 2024, has resulted in nearly 99,700 suspected cases and over 2,470 deaths nationwide. In response, Sudan has launched a 10-day cholera vaccination campaign in Khartoum, aiming to immunize over 150,000 people. However, the situation remains important and urgent, with MSF and other humanitarian organizations calling for urgent international support to address the public health emergency. And finally, on sports, Super Falcons captain Rasheedat Ajibade has revealed that the team has not yet received the promised $100,000 reward or the 3-bedroom apartment from the Nigerian government following their victory at the 2025 Women's Africa Cup of Nations WAFCON in Morocco. Justin Madugu's side staged a remarkable comeback in the final against Morocco, overturning a 2-goal first-half deficit to win 3-2. In an interview with journalists, Ajibade expressed disappointment over the delay, but remains optimistic that the Nigerian government will fulfill its promises. Still on sports, the Indian Olympic Association has officially approved India's bid to host the 2030 Commonwealth Games. The decision was made during the IOA's Special General Meeting in New Delhi on Wednesday. India had earlier submitted an expression of interest to host the game and has now until August 31st to submit the final bid proposal. The host nation for the 2030 Commonwealth Games will be announced by the General Assembly of Commonwealth Sport during the last week of November in Glasgow. And that's our news bulletin at this time. Many thanks for joining us. I'm Okbayemi Obosheni. See you next time.